Casino Royale. That's right, Casino Royale. The first James Bond novel written by Ian Fleming, and to be honest, it's an incredible book. It really is. I expected good things from this book. I kind of had maybe set my expectations a little bit too high with this book, but it's incredible. I mean, first things first, James Bond is a really, really well-written character in this. You'd expect that. Ian Fleming created James Bond, so of course, in his debut novel, he's going to be well-written. So James Bond's all there, he's on point. And when I was reading it, I wasn't hearing Connery or Craig or Dalton or Moore or Lazenby or any of the Bonds. I was hearing this new Bond, this literary Bond, the novel Bond, the book Bond, whatever you want to call it. And as the novel progressed, I started hearing a different voice every time I read Bond's dialogue. And that was quite surprising, actually. I thought, oh, there's going to be elements of, all the on-screen Bonds, and maybe there are if you really do know your Bond and you're really hardcore, you'll notice stuff. But I didn't, and I noticed this new Bond. As far as I can see, there are 6 Bonds in the Eon films. Then there's Barry Nelson in the Casino Royale in 1954, and there's David Niven in 1967, and Woody Allen, and that's a weird movie. But in this, there's another Bond added to that list. The literary Bond, the novel Bond, the book Bond, whatever you want to call him, James Bond. He's such a compelling character. His inner monologues, his actions, whatever he does, it's so interesting. You get a lot of opinions and thoughts from Bond in this book, which is really interesting. You can't really translate that effectively into film without descending into some weird, obnoxious parody of, something like that. When there's someone talking, you can hear their inner monologue. That would be so bad for a Bond movie, but in a book, it works really nicely. Le Chiffre is a really great character, Vesper's a really great character, Mathis is great, Felix Leiter's great, but there's one thing that really works, and that is the setting. Now, when this book was written, it was modern day, it was brand new, but now it's been, we're coming up to 70 years since the book came out, and it is kind of fascinating. It's a post-Second World War world, in the midst of the Cold War, tensions between East and West. There's a lot of communism going on at the moment, and there's a lot of digs. Ian Fleming obviously makes a lot of digs at communism, and that's fascinating because the film series is generally quite apolitical on the whole. In fact, Harry Saltzman and Albert Broccoli specifically changed Smersh to Spectre in the movies to avoid being all political. Smersh, from the off, it's Soviet, it's communist, it's bad, at least as far as Ian Fleming is concerned. And that is fantastic. It makes it more atmospheric, more tense. It's absolutely brilliant knowing there's this Cold War espionage going on. It's brilliant. Some would say it dates the book a bit by putting it so rigidly in its time. I think it works wonders. I think it's a really top thing to not even have done, because at the time it was just common sense to write it in its then modern setting. But now, almost 70 years later, it still works. This book is fantastic. I wouldn't say it's timeless, but it works incredibly well. So it's a great book. It's well paced. It's not especially thick, as you can probably see. It's not a very long book. So you're not really dawdling too long. And if you've seen the Daniel Craig 2006 adaptation, you'll know that this, and if you've read the book and you've seen the Craig movie, there'll be things that pop up. You're like, oh, that's interesting. They didn't do that, but they used that bit. The novel, obviously, is the original work. It's the original James Bond piece of fiction we have, movie or novel or any other form of media. And it's a really top introduction to James Bond. It really just introduces this character so fantastically. And I can't really stress how good this book is. It's fantastic. Are there any flaws with it? No, basically. It's a really, really good book. I mean, to get a proper opinion on this, you probably have to ask someone who reads a lot and knows all about, different types of book writing and things like that. There's probably even a term for that. Book writing doesn't sound like a proper term. But this book is amazing. This book was so successful that a year later, in 1954, Live and Let Die was published, continuing the story of James Bond on the pages. So those are kind of my musings and my thoughts on Casino Royale, which is just a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, I strongly recommend it. I cannot recommend it highly enough, actually. It's a really, really top book. And I'll very soon be starting my read of Live and Let Die. Bye for now.